Welcome to the Making of Man. My name is Matthew Rodriguez, and in this video, I want to talk to you about the masculine genius. You may have heard about the masculine genius before, or you may have heard about the feminine genius. The feminine genius was popularized in a main way in our current age by St. Pope John Paul II in his 1988 letter to women. In this regard, when we use the word genius, we're not meaning anything in relation to the intellect. We mean the word genius in relation to characteristics or the dispositions of a certain thing. So when we say the masculine genius, we mean characteristics or dispositions that are proper or primary to men. The characteristics that I define as the masculine genius are generation, initiation, and focusing on the external. And the complementary characteristics that I would ascribe to the feminine genius are receptivity, transformation, and focusing on the internal. Now, an important thing to note is that all 6 of these belong to both men and women. They are human characteristics. It's just that the tradition tends to ascribe certain characteristics as more proper or being shown more often, demonstrated more often by men, and some characteristics being demonstrated more often by women, or each gender has certain kind of perfections that they are disposed towards. So, again, for men, the masculine genius, I would define that as generation, initiation, and focusing on the external. So going into the first one, generation. Generation is going to be the most abstract one in some regards. So I want to start with a very concrete biological example of just part of the evidence of men having this disposition to generate. And the tradition often points back to the sexual act as a way that we can see the complementarity between the sexes and also some evidence for the masculine and the feminine genius. And so we can use that for the idea of generation. For the sexual act, men generate their sexual gametes. They generate them, and then later on in the life cycle of that cell, they're absorbed back into the human body. And this is why we can say that men are fertile for the majority of their lives. Again, we can contrast this with the complementary aspect of women, where women are born with all the sexual gametes that they will have for the course of their life. So that's the biological, concrete example. Going, again, a little bit more ambiguous, men tend to have this natural disposition to generate in a variety of facets. So we can see that even today, the majority of entrepreneurs are men. So new businesses that are being generated are by men. We can see that the number of artists, the majority of which are men. So we can see this idea of generation in more abstract thinking, also kind of showing evidence of the disposition or the characteristics that are proper to men. Again, this is not saying that women cannot generate. There are many great female artists, but it's just a way to go about and ascribe kind of why generation is part of the masculine genius. The second aspect is initiating. So we can think about generation as coming up with the vision of what could be, and then initiating is actually putting that vision out into the world. And so we can think about that by making the business, by creating the drawing or the sculpture or the art. We can also think about that in terms of relationships. And so the man needs to generate the vision of the future of him being with a particular woman, and then he goes about initiating that relationship. This is why it's always been advised that the guy go out and ask the woman on a date. It's also why the guy is also the one to then propose to the woman after a certain amount of time. And so you see in those aspects the idea of the initiation and the reception of the relationship between the man and the woman. The third aspect of the masculine genius is being external. And for this, we can also think of biological characteristics. The biological characteristics of men allow them to be a little bit more external in our natural environment. We have more upper body strength. We can fight things a little bit easier. We are more spatially inclined, whereas women are more verbally inclined. So we can better spatially perceive things. So in a hunter-gatherer society, we can better go out and hunt. There's a variety of characteristics that make us better suited to going out into the natural world, into the external environment outside of the human community. We can also see this in regards to the home. There was a great video from Ascension Presents that I will link down below, where they talked about what a husband and wife does, or what their natural instinct is, if an intruder were to burst into their home in the middle of the night while they were asleep. You can imagine, possibly without even discussing it, the guy gets out of bed and charges towards the open door or wherever the intruder came in from, and the woman gets out of bed and charges towards the room or rooms that their children are in. And this shows, again, the externality of the guy and the internality of the woman, that he was focused on the external, going to the barrier between his community and the outside and defending it, and she was focused on the internal. She was focused to going inside their community, in this case the house, and making sure that they were okay. And so with these three aspects, I hope that that can give a thematic overview of some of the qualities of men that hopefully you can see in yourself and continue to develop further, that men are to be generating, initiating, and external, and try and take opportunities in the future to develop these even more, to create things, to initiate things, whether that's part of your creation or a relationship with a woman, and to recognize that the training of your body and the training of your ability to focus on the external is something that is proper to you as a man. So I hope this video was helpful in describing and defining the masculine genius. If you have any thoughts, I'd love to hear them below. Thank you for watching The Making of Man. If you liked that episode, please click here for more, and remember to like and subscribe.